All right, folks. So this is a little bit of an older one, 4 days, but it's worth talking about. The Federalist, a right-wing propaganda, whatever the fuck, put out a piece that says the 9/11 attacks ultimately proved a lesser threat to America than the totalitarian left. Now, I want to be very clear. I have not read this yet, so let's read. This is by John Daniel Davidson. The left hates America, and ordinary Americans are at least as much as the 9/11... Wait, the left hates America and ordinary Americans at least as much as the 9/11 hijackers did, and for some of the same reasons. I don't think... I mean, I actually, that's true. I do hate ordinary Americans. Like, that is true. I do hate America, and I do hate ordinary Americans. And, I mean, that is true. And for a lot of the same reasons that people maybe in the Middle East would hate them. But that's neither here nor there. Let's read. I was in college when the planes hit the towers. I was in kindergarten. Studying that Tuesday morning before class in the student union. I don't know what the student union is, but it sounds so enthralling. The woman who ran the student snack bar and I were the only people there. And together we watched the second plane hit on television. At that moment, my stomach dropped. After the first plane hit, no one really knew what was going on. Whether a small aircraft had accidentally crashed into the tower, or if it had been an explosion, or something else. But when that second plane hit, we knew. This wasn't an accident. Someone had planned this. It was an attack. Suddenly, we were at war. And so we all know what happened is we invaded the wrong country, right? Spent trillions of dollars on killing millions of civilians. Gave rich people a bunch of guns, weapons, like toys, fighter jets, and money. Don't forget money. Made them, put them in cabinet positions, gave them, a bunch of bullshit, gave them contracts, went to parties with them. And we went at war, and now we're currently partners with the government who was mostly involved in these attacks. So, interesting. All right. In the months and years that followed, my classmates and I tried to wrap our minds around what we thought was coming. A generational struggle against jihadist networks that seemed to span the globe, that had even infiltrated the United States. We all read Samuel P. Huntington's The Clash of Civilizations and the remarking of the world order. We all scoffed at Francis Fukuyama's notion of the end of history. We thought the United States was the only power capable of stamping out Islamic terrorism. We assumed there would be many more attacks on the homeland. So I want to contextualize this. So the United States is trying to stamp out Islamic terrorism. Meanwhile, a year before September 11th, not even a year, but, 8 months before the September 11th attacks, Christian fundamentalist far-right nationalists performed a lawfare-based coup on the United States. Does anyone remember the 2000 election? Al Gore won the Electoral College, and he won the popular vote. But the Supreme Court, stacked by George Bush's daddy and his best friends, by far right-wing Christian nationalists, performed a law-based coup and installed someone who is a loser as president. I view that as more problematic than anything Islamist terror has to say. How many people died because of that Christian nationalist attack on the American justice system? Anyone? Far more than 2,900, that's for sure. But let's continue reading. 20 years after the attacks of September 11, 2001, it's safe to say they did not herald the defining, all-consuming civilizational struggle we had anticipated. We is doing a lot of work there. The thing we most feared, Islamic terrorism, did not prove to be our worst enemy, or the greatest threat to our republic. The real enemy, it turns out, came from within. Now, I want to be very clear. This article comes just about 8 months, 9 months now, after the January 6th attack and attempted overthrow of the government. So, I'm very curious. Okay, so there was a Christian nationalist funded coup in the 2000 election, and then Christian nationalists tried to destroy the United States government 20 years later. But the real problem, from within the real problem, is actually the left. So not the people that have been trying to destroy the United States government for 20 years. That's actually great from within. That's great. But the people that have no power at all, those are the ones that are the problem. In the 20 years since the attacks, America's own totalitarian left has proven to be a far more dangerous and committed enemy of the United States than any distant jihadists, harboring as much hatred for our heritage of freedom and chaotic way of life as Osama bin Laden ever did. So, okay, how many people have left-wing, radical left-wing terrorists, the totalitarian left, whatever that means, how many people have they killed in terror attacks in the United States? Last time I checked, it was 0. But anyway, let's go on. Christopher Hitchens famously described bin Laden's animating ideology as fascism with an Islamic face, later adopting the apt term Islamofascism. Now, again, this is when Christopher Hitchens lost the goddamn plot. Hitchens thought the fascist comparison appropriate because both movements, in his view, are murderous cults, hostile to modernity and the life of the mind, nostalgic for empires of past glory, and obsessed with past humiliations and a desire for revenge, among other things. Right, okay, that accurately describes Christians as well. And if you would have talked to Christopher Hitchens before 9/11 broke his brain, he would have said the same thing. Christian fascism is also a real entity. And they overturned the election in 2000. And they tried and failed to overturn the election in 2020. So there's a lot going on with Christian fascism. Also, wasn't there recently like a bombing in a major city? Maybe, I don't know, it was in Tennessee maybe? By someone who professed these beliefs? I'm just saying, it's very interesting that it's the Islamists and the totalitarian left who are the problem, when right-wing crazy Christians have been murdering people for years. Look what's going on in Texas. Texas is now the wild, wild west once again. They are sicking bounty hunters on any woman that they feel might have had sex in the last 6 weeks. If you had sex in the last 6 weeks, we're gunning for your ass. But alright, it's all about the Islamists and the totalitarian left, which I'm still don't know what that means. But the fascism of bin Laden and his ilk, while obviously dangerous and likely to become even more so after utter defeat in Afghanistan, hasn't proved as durable or tangible as the fascism of the Democratic Party under the Biden administration. Okay, so it's actually not the left, it's the Democrats, a right-wing party? So it's actually not Antifa or left-wingers or BLM, whatever. It's actually the right-wing Democratic Party. They are not far-right enough. So we've got a neo-Nazi organization, the Republican Party, and a conservative right-wing party called the Democratic Party. Those are the two parties in the United States. God bless the duopoly, bro. But now, all of a sudden, Biden is ultra-communist, totalitarian left. Alright? As I write, the president is announcing a plan to force all federal workers to get a COVID-19 shot and major employers to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for their workers or test them weekly, with crippling fines for those who don't comply. Is that fascism? We've had vaccine mandates in this country for 100 years. Every time a kid goes to kindergarten, is that fascism? Every single child that has ever gone to kindergarten in a public school is a victim of a fascist government now. This is not about freedom or personal choice, said Biden. Indeed, it is not. It is about total federal control over what the administrative state has come to view as its subjects, not citizens to whom it must answer. Now, what does this guy have to say about Texas and the recent abortion law? Very curious. And the tyrannical worldview of the president and his advisors Advisors, nothing can stand in the way of government coercion, not even federalism. If these governors won't help, said Biden, I will use my powers as president and get them out of the way. Which is a pretty based fucking take, in my opinion. When it comes to tearing down America brick by brick, the Islamo-fascists of 9/11 had nothing on those who now command the heights of our culture. I mean, like, really, this shit is bizarre. Okay, so Biden's vaccine mandate is just, of course, one example. All right, let's get to the other examples. Like the hijackers, the left holds almost everything about America in contempt. Correct? I do, anyway. I'm a leftist. I also hold Biden in contempt. So, I don't know what that says about this. We are told in our workplaces and our children are taught in their schools that the United States is an irredeemably racist, founded on violence, and that our constitutional experiments amount to nothing more than a massive crime. That's actually not taught in school. Actually, when I went to school, I'm 25, so I'm not actually that old. So when I went to school, we did a Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Now, to my understanding, they still do a Pledge of Allegiance every morning. Every morning, you go to school, 5 days a week, you have to stand up, place your hand on your heart, and pledge allegiance to a flag. Folks, what? Like, I'm just curious. Okay. They want you to put your hand on your chest and pledge your allegiance to the flag of the United States. That's teaching kids to hate America? I mean, it taught me to hate America, but maybe not for the reasons that they wanted. But either way, what? Like, what? I'm so confused. We are called upon to repudiate our past and pull down monuments to our forebearers, not just Confederate generals, but also our founding fathers. Correct. We are instructed that men can be women if they choose so, okay? That's instructed as in that's natural and that's been happening for thousands, if not millions of years. But hey, okay, sure. I mean, that's the thing about this, is like, when you really look at this, the Christian fascists are the ones who had, like, what was this statement here when he was quoting Christopher Hitchens? Right. Nostalgic for empires of past glory and obsessed with past humiliations and desire for revenge. Past humiliations, the loss of the Civil War. Nostalgic for empires of past glory, when only white men and only white women could vote. Right? Maybe even so nostalgic that only white men could vote. Maybe even so nostalgic that only white land-owning rich men could vote. Right? That's what they want society to be. They systematically oppressed and murdered people that were queer and then claimed they didn't exist. That's an attempted genocide of queer people. The Nazis destroyed all around the world. They destroyed queer history. Because they didn't want anyone to know that queer people had ever existed. Right? In the United States of America, you could not serve in the military if you were gay. Because other soldiers would think that you would rape them at night just by sheer fact that you were gay. Even though straight people are far more likely to commit acts of sexual violence. In the United States of America, 10 years ago, if you were gay, you could not marry someone. 10 years ago. Right? So the idea that this guy treats this as a new thing that is being instructed and not the other way around is bizarre to me and proves that this guy is deep in it. He is deep in his motherfucking filter bubble. And those who disagree should probably lose their jobs and be ostracized. I agree. If you are a bigot, you should lose your job and go away. If you want to go live in a government controlled by the Taliban, feel free. Like it or leave it. If you object to your daughter being forced to compete in school sports with boys who claim to be girls, you're a bigot who must be silenced. Sports are fucking stupid. Imagine, America is under attack because my child lost a sports game. What? What? My 4-year-old got a D on their report card. America is under attack. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. The reductive, totalizing ideology of the left has seeped into nearly every institution of American life and dominates our culture and our politics. It is profoundly anti-American. Now, again, that's the thing, is if you are conflating American with straight, cis, normative, like, values, like the nuclear family, and only white people can vote, if that's your idea of America and that's what you want to go back to, then yes, we are teaching kids now to hate America. We want kids to hate America. If that's what you think America is, then yes, we hate America. But we don't think America, well, personally, I don't give a shit. But most people don't think America is without saving. We used to deny anyone who wasn't a rich, white landowner the right to vote. Now we at least let some women vote. We at least let some black people vote. Could be better, but it also was a lot worse, right? And they want to go back to a time before that. They want to go back to a time where gay people could not be married. They want to go back to a time where gay people were thrown off of bridges into rivers and shot and killed for simply being themselves. That's their ideal America. And if that's what your version of America is, then yes, I am anti-American. But I mean, like, these motherfuckers are crazy. It is profoundly anti-American, and in the final analysis, it is a far greater threat to the future of our republic than even the wildest plots and most murderous fantasies of all the world's shiadas combined. Again, I really need you to understand, these people are pro-Taliban. They are pro-fascism. This is fascism. The only reason they were against, quote, Islamofascism in 2001 and 2002 was because it was the wrong religion. These people have been desiring Christian fascism for decades. They have been spending entire generations, entire lifetimes building a Christian neo-fascist agenda. That's why they were so afraid of an Islamic fascist agenda. Because it was the wrong book that they used as their fucking bullshit fucking rules. Instead of just letting human beings be human beings, instead of just letting humans live and prosper, they want to control what other people do. While, meanwhile, saying that the other side, if they can't even identify what the other side is because they think Biden's a leftist, meanwhile, they think random people are controlling what they do. If someone walking around, if a boy walking around in public and then kissing their boyfriend on the cheek is so offensive to you that you need to write an article like this, I've got an idea. Leave the country, go to Afghanistan. You'd fit in a lot more there. But anyway, that is some cringe shit. And holy fuck. Some cringe motherfucking shit.